There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the noise becomes unbearable. The hum of worry, the chatter of ambition, the ceaseless echo of our own thoughts. These sounds fill the chambers of the heart until there is no room left for silence. Yet silence is the very language in which God speaks. We pray, we plead, we plan, but we do not pause. We fill the sacred space meant for His whisper with our own thunder. Be still and know, He says, but we rush past that command as though stillness were weakness. In truth, it is the posture of power, the doorway to divine clarity. Stop everything and listen, not with your ears but with your spirit. There is a voice behind all voices, a presence beneath all presences. It does not compete for attention, it waits for surrender, and because it waits, we mistake its patience for absence. But God is not absent. He is simply unwilling to shout over the clamor we invite. The world trains us to move faster, speak louder, and reach higher, yet heaven asks us to kneel lower, breathe slower, and listen deeper. For only when the noise dies does truth rise. You may think silence is empty, but it is not. It is full of instruction. It carries the weight of eternity in the gentleness of a breath. To stop and listen is not to waste time. It is to redeem it. Every sacred revelation has been born in quiet. Every heart that has truly known peace has known it in the hush between storms. The voice that created galaxies has not grown silent. It still calls, but only the still can hear it. Stop everything and listen, because your next step depends not on more motion, but on more attention. The answer you seek has been speaking all along, waiting beneath your distractions. There are moments when heaven lowers itself to the edge of your heart, waiting for the noise to fade, for you to stop striving, stop arguing, stop fearing, and simply be still. For in that holy pause, eternity bends close, and what you hear in that silence will change everything. Silence is not emptiness, it is where God speaks. We have been taught to fear silence, to treat it as a void that must be filled. We fill it with sound, with motion, with conversation, with the endless flicker of screens. But silence is not the absence of life, it is the presence of meaning. In silence, the world ceases its frantic spinning, and the soul begins to breathe again. It is in that still air that the whisper of the divine becomes audible. God seldom shouts. He does not compete with the marketplace of noise that our minds have become. Instead, He speaks softly, so that only the listening heart can hear. Silence is not empty. It is alive with revelation, waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to be still. When everything around us demands reaction, silence demands reflection. It takes courage to enter it, for in the quiet we meet ourselves unmasked. We begin to hear the truth we have long drowned out, the truth about our fears, our longing, and our misplaced trust in the noise of the world. But beyond that discomfort lies the sacred voice that restores order to our chaos. The silence that once felt unbearable becomes holy ground, for it is there we encounter the reality that words cannot capture. The prophets heard God in the wilderness, not in the crowd. The psalmist found Him beside still waters, not in roaring battles. Even Christ withdrew to lonely places to pray. Why? Because silence is the sanctuary where heaven descends into the human heart. It is where wisdom takes shape, where burdens lose their weight, and where the restless spirit finds its anchor. The world tells us that silence is wasted time, but it is in silence that eternity begins to speak. When you stop to listen in the quiet, you discover that silence is not hollow, it is inhabited. It carries the pulse of creation, the murmur of grace, the breath of the one who sustains all things. It reminds us that God does not always answer in thunder. Sometimes He answers in peace. To step into silence is to step out of illusion and into truth. It is not emptiness. It is fullness concealed, waiting for hearts quiet enough to hear its holy voice. The louder the world becomes, the softer heaven whispers. We live in an age of relentless noise, voices shouting for attention, screens flashing for our eyes, opinions colliding like thunder. The human heart was never built to hold so much clamor. Every hour we are pulled in 1,000 directions until the soul begins to lose its ability to hear the eternal. Yet heaven still speaks. It has not gone silent. Its voice, however, grows softer as the world grows louder, not because it is weaker, but because it is wiser. God whispers not to hide, but to invite. He draws us close by lowering his voice, teaching us that divine truth is not found in the storm, but in the stillness after it. When the world's noise increases, the whisper of heaven becomes a test of desire. Do we want to hear what is eternal badly enough to turn down the volume of everything else? The whisper is not for those who rush. It is for those who wait. It does not shout over our distractions. It waits for our surrender. In every generation, the few who have truly heard God's voice have been the ones willing to withdraw from the uproar, to make silence a sanctuary rather than a punishment. For the whisper of heaven is not a sound to be captured. It is a presence to be felt. The soft voice of God is mercy itself. It does not overwhelm, it invites. It does not command the senses. It calls to the soul. And the reason it grows softer as the world grows louder is because it will not compete with vanity. It will not mingle with chaos. The divine whisper asks us to choose, to value the eternal over the immediate, the sacred over the sensational. To hear it, we must quiet not just our surroundings, but our ambitions, fears, and endless inner dialogue. When heaven whispers, it is not to conceal truth, but to purify our listening. The world shouts to impress. God whispers to transform. Each soft word from above carries more weight than 1,000 worldly roars. If we do not pause, we will miss it. But if we quiet the world within us, even for a moment, we will hear what eternity has been saying all along. The voice that does not need volume to carry power, only a willing heart to receive it. Stillness is the doorway through which divine clarity enters. There are truths too delicate to be seen while the soul is in motion. We often imagine that wisdom comes through effort, through thinking harder, striving longer, doing more. But the deepest clarity is not achieved, it is received. Stillness is not laziness, it is alignment. It is the sacred pause in which our scattered thoughts settle, and the light of understanding can finally pass through unobstructed. When the waters of the heart are restless, they reflect nothing clearly. But when they become still, they mirror heaven itself. In stillness, what was once confusing begins to unfold with quiet precision, because divine truth requires calm to be perceived. We live surrounded by noise, racing through days as though motion itself were meaning. Yet motion without direction only multiplies confusion. Stillness does not stop life, it restores it. It is in the moments when we stop reaching that God begins to reveal what we were never meant to grasp by force. Every saint, every seeker, every soul that ever touched the eternal had to learn this, that revelation is not shouted into the storm, it descends like dew upon the quiet field. Stillness opens the inner ear, the one that hears beyond logic, beyond language, into the gentle wisdom of the Spirit. When we grow still, we do not lose progress, we find perspective. The divine does not enter hearts that are crowded with anxiety and noise. It waits outside the door until we calm enough to invite it in. Stillness is not an escape from life. It is the posture that allows us to see life rightly. It teaches us to move only when guided, to speak only when led, to decide only when light has entered the room. Without stillness, we mistake motion for meaning, but in stillness, meaning births motion. Divine clarity is not born of effort but of surrender. It enters when striving ceases and faith begins. The world says, do something. Heaven says, be still. For in that sacred stillness, the fog of confusion lifts, and what was hidden becomes plain. The answers we chased begin to chase us. Stillness opens the heart's door, and through it steps not just clarity, but the quiet presence of God Himself, illuminating everything.